Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome back to a Gloucestershire woodland. Now, if you're a fairly new subscriber, by fairly new I mean within the past couple of years, you may not be familiar with this wonderful paradise woodland here in this very quiet corner of Gloucestershire. I've previously made 7 videos, but the last one of which was way back 2 years ago. In fact, it was almost to the day that I recorded it, and it went up, I think, on the 9th of November 2022. So as I say, if you're new to the channel, fairly new to the channel, you probably won't be aware of this series at all. And I've made 7 of them, looking at aspects of this woodland and trees in general and how they can benefit our health, and tracing it through the seasons. Well, of course, now we're back in autumn. So I thought it'd be a good chance, following a mention from Michael in Poland, thank you Michael, who wanted to see this woodland again and see what it looks like. Now, I have been back here in the meantime many times for reasons I'll mention shortly. And I've seen how it's changed over those past couple of years. But I thought I'd take you around here today and explain a little bit more of the mechanics of what happens to trees and woodlands in autumn generally, as well as talking about some other wider topics as well. So I hope you can join me for that. Now, just a word here that these videos aren't particularly popular on my channel. That's not an issue to me personally. But the woodland is precious to me, and I'll mention why in a bit. Now, videos like looking at lost canals, abandoned railways, coastline in the southwest, beaches and pretty coastal villages, they're all popular on the channel. But that's not what we're about here. This is just a woodland. There's nothing fancy about it. There's no hidden secrets. There's no hidden caves, no trickery. It's just you and me and a woodland in Gloucestershire to enjoy the peace and tranquility. Oh, you're still here. I thought you might have switched off. No, thank you. Thank you for continuing to watch the video at the woodland. Now, why is this area really special to me? Well, first of all, it's close to where I live here in Gloucestershire. It's about a 40-minute walk, and I could actually feel myself kind of chill down as I entered the woodland. The walk from home means walking across many main roads, and there's lots of chaos with the traffic, and it passes a couple of schools with the children, you know, the sort of thing, the playground noises and all that kind of thing. But when I come here, I can feel myself literally relax. There's a kissing gate. You go through the kissing gate and I just feel myself go, I'm back in my happy place, if you like. And it's really special to me, this place, because it means a lot to me, not only personally, but for a wider reason. And we'll talk about those reasons later. So why is this woodland important to me personally? Well, I've made a couple of videos on the subject of mental health and autism, because I am autistic, and that came up on the channel. I haven't done one recently. I think the last one was about 18 months ago, so I probably need to do another one. So this is not about this particular topic here on this woodland discovery today, but it touches on it. And the reason for that is both woodlands and doing photography are important to my mental health. They're a bulwark, in fact, kind of a thick wall protecting myself, my mental health, from deteriorating, which I have experienced problems with in the past. And places like this are so important for me to come into to stop that happening. And when I say me, I also mean we, because all of us will at some point struggle with our mental health. And places like this are so adaptable to stop that happening. And you can come into places like this where it's nice and quiet, just with the sounds of nature, and it really does give us a boost. But it's not all just kind of thing, you might just think that's just psychological mumbo jumbo. Well, in actual fact it isn't, because trees give off a couple of chemicals, one of which is called photosides. I'll put the spelling of that in below. Basically means light blocking. It comes back from exactly 100 years ago. It was a Russian scientist that coined the phrase, but it's a little bit misleading. It's not like a pesticide. These natural oils that the trees give off also help the tree. They protect it from predators, but they also appeal to things like bees, which help the tree with fertilization. Now, these particular chemicals, for reasons we don't fully know, also help our systems too, both mentally and physically. Indeed, people with COPD, cardiopulmonary disease. I've forgotten what exactly it stands for, but it means you have a lung issue. They can actually benefit by coming into woodlands like these because of the chemicals that the trees release, and that helps their lung capacity as well. But aside from the chemicals that the trees give off, the woodland gives off this enormous sense of well-being. But that's not the only angle to it. It's not just about mental and physical health to ourselves. There's something far more important that trees give health to. Do you know what that is? Now, I'll answer that question in a minute, but just going back to our photon sides, there's a range of them called terpenes, and they actually act as perfume agents. One of them is called D-limonene, which sometimes gives trees off a lemony smell. And there's another one called alpha-pinene, which gives pine trees their distinctive pine smell, particularly if you're walking along a woodland floor that has pine trees and you're crushing the needles. What's the purpose of all that? Well, the purpose of it, of course, is to attract specifically bees, pollinators to the tree, so the flowers can then be cross-fertilized with the pollen that's on the tree flower. So it has an important function, but of course it's very pleasant to us as well. Now, going back to that question, what else do trees and woodlands generally support? Well, of course, the answer is the full global ecosystem, and in fact, the world, our planet. Our planet supports both us, the human race, other mammals, other animals, the plant world as well. And we're all interlinked. We may like to think ourselves as humans at the top of a pile. We're intelligent above everything else, and we've done these amazing things. We've gone to the moon, we've done cures for this, that and the other. But in fact, we're not, because trees have intelligence as well, which I've spoke about before, because how they communicate to each other underground using fungi networks, neural networks if you like, and how they protect each other to control their feeding. And we'll come on to feeding and how that links into autumn as well. So all these things are linked. Now, recently, at the very end of October, I think it started on the 31st, in Spain, in Valencia, there's been some terrible floods there, which I'm sure you're aware of. Some awful images that we've seen on our TV screens, on newspapers and online. I'll just put a couple of them up if you're not aware of it. There's ones with the cars and before and after shots, so I'll put those up now on the screen. Terrible tragedy, and that unfortunately is linked to climate change. We may want to, some people may want to deny that fact. And also we've had some terrible storms recently in Oklahoma, just literally a day or two after that happened. Lots of people have had their homes devastated there in the United States of America as well. And these events are becoming more and more common. Yes, we used to hear about them with floods. I remember hearing about floods, I think it was in Bangladesh in the 70s. But these events are increasing more and more in their intensity and their frequency. Now, if we neglect places like this, it means that climate change will actually go worse. Why is that? Well, because over the past 200 years, if you think we've been on the planet for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, if not longer, going back to, skeletons have been found in Neolithic tombs, all that kind of thing, we're going away from the subject. But the reason I mention it is that we've been here for 10,000 years plus, but in the past 200 years, just that short span of the full 10,000, we've become increasingly urbanised, and places like this have been obliterated, they've been destroyed. In fact, at one time, England, most of it was covered in woodland, and a lot of it was chopped down, some of it obviously for firewood, some of it for construction, some of it for lots of other purposes, but mainly for building, on building land, for building towns and cities, which get increasingly bigger and outer and outer. So places like this are really under threat, which is why I mentioned that places like this are so important to me and to you, as I say, for our mental and physical health, but also to keep supporting our global ecosystem. Well, welcome back. Now, I've spoken already about the chaos that's happening on there and the importance of woodlands, and I'll touch on more later about specifically how woodlands can help us control climate change. It's really interesting what I've learned recently. But what's happening here? So we're in the autumn. In fact, in North America, they call it the fall. But that expression fall actually originates originally from England, from the 17th century. It's a 17th century expression called fall of the leaf, which then got moved across to North America when people from England and elsewhere in the United Kingdom emigrated and became immigrants in North America. And it then, of course, got abbreviated from fall of the leaf to just fall. So that's what they call it. But when does autumn start? Now, this is an interesting one. And how does it link in with when trees think autumn starts? Well, it's to do with the equinox, the autumnal equinox, which happens around the 22nd or 23rd of September here in the Northern Hemisphere. Of course, that's different in the Southern Hemisphere. So if you're watching this in Australia and New Zealand, and I know some of you possibly will be, then that will mean you'll have a different date. I can't remember what that is off the top of my head in there, but I have been to Australia, so it's a really weird experience. So here in the springtime, you're having a plane going over. Yes, I know that doesn't help climate change, I'm aware of that, but I was visiting family over there at the time. And yeah, you're suddenly in autumn. It's a very, very odd experience doing that. But yeah, so what is special about autumn as far as the trees are concerned? Well, last time when I did one of the autumn videos, I spoke about it was them being tired after the summer, because just to recap, because I realised that was 2 years ago now that video went out, the trees are working absolutely the maximum capacity during the summer. They're extracting water, which they've stored in the ground and in their trunks as well, and they're pushing out as hard as they can into the leaves, so the leaves can grow to the maximum extent, the chloroform, the light exchange of that and all that, but storing energy in their trunks as well for when we get into the winter. So that's happening. By the end of the summer, they're absolutely exhausted because they've been going full pelt throughout all those 3 or 4 months, working so hard. They're really, really tired. It's like us. If we're working flat out at work and we've then done a working through weekends for a couple of weekends, and we're doing 12, 14 hours days non-stop, no day off. At the end of all that, we're absolutely exhausted and we need a break. Well, that's exactly what autumn is. It's giving the trees a break. Now, one of the commonest things that people think about at autumn is how do the trees know when to stop pushing the chloroform out to the leaves, in other words, stopping the greenness, and then they're becoming yellow and then the leaf falling out. How do they know when to start that process? Well, it's a fascinating answer, really. I don't have the full answer for you, but first of all, think about it the other way. So trees are in winter time and the branches are bare, they have no leaves on them, and obviously if they're deciduous trees, of course. How do they know when to start growing? Well, obviously what's happening is it's warming up. The ground is warming up, so we have a cold winter generally, not always now because of climate change, and generally it starts to get warmer. And as it starts to get warmer, they tend to know it's to tend to start pushing it out. One of the reasons for that is increased flow of water in the trunk. Now, in colder climates, that water in the trunk can be permanently frozen all throughout the winter. As you go into spring, you get the melt, and then the water can then flow up the trunk to get the water into those buds, burgeoning buds, to get the leaves to grow. So that's one aspect of it. But of course, trees, like us, need a sense of time. So I've got a watch on here, so I know what time it is. I know what time it's going to get dark, so how long I've got left for filming here this afternoon in November, because of course it gets darker early. Trees don't have watches. So how do they precisely know then? Because of course we've now got milder autumns. So we've had quite a wet, late summertime. We've gone into autumn, but they've still decided to change at the right time. The process started towards the end of September. We're now here in early November and the leaves are the right colour for this time of year. So how, despite having that mild autumn, how have they known to do this? Well, the answer to this is rather surprising, and that trees know how to count. I'll repeat that. Yes, trees know how to count. Yes, so as well as communicating to each other underground in this colony here, this social colony that we have, which is exactly what it is. It is a tree village. It's not just some random trees in a space of land. It is really a social community. as well as being able to communicate each other to protect each other, it turns out they can count. Now this is used in both the springtime and the autumn time. What do I mean by that? Well, if you think about it, if you think what happens with weather as opposed to climate, in January and February you can actually get a warm day, a random warm day. So you go out and think, oh, it's really mild today, I think I'll go out and walk on the beach or whatever. It's quite warm for this time of year. But you'll just get one, and then the next day it could be raining and cold. So if the tree took notice of that one day, think, in the middle of January, spring's arrived, time to put out the leaves, and then of course the next day, harsh frost, leaves dead. That'll be no good to the tree, be wasting all its energy and resources doing that. So it needs to devise a method to be able to count. So it's not just looking for one warmer day, it's looking for a period of them. So it's getting warmer, it's warmer, it's warmer, it's warmer. It must be a seasonal change because we've got warmer over a period of time. Then it knows how to do it. So that explains how it could do it around springtime, but not so much around the autumn time. But as well as being able to count, trees have the process, obviously photosynthesis, and the clue there is photo, as in light. So trees can absorb light, which is a crucial part of their process for producing energy from the sunlight as well as the water. But they also use that not just for producing energy, but using a system of measurement. So they also know the days are getting shorter and longer. So they know the difference between springtime and autumn time, when to start producing the buds, when to stop sending that energy out to the leaves. So the chloroform process changes and leaf will then drop off. Absolutely amazing, isn't it? Now sometimes the trees might not be sure. Obviously with climate change we've got topsy-turvy weather, it can be milder winters, wetter and colder summers, all that type of thing. But trees still generally do their leaf patterns in the usual way. And it turns out that even though they haven't produced a full leaf with the photosynthesis process in terms of measuring the length of days, they can still do it with just a tiny bud. So they might just send out in the early part of springtime or late winter small buds, almost like testing buds, and just from those small buds they can still measure the light as well, and then decide to whether to send out more energy to those tiny buds to get them to flourish, or just to hold back a little bit longer depending on the weather. No, it really is extraordinary what trees are. Now remember at the beginning I was talking about, I know it was a little bit doom and gloomy talking about climate change, and when you're talking about trees, I'm afraid it is rather inevitable. They're not, they are in the same system that we are, so they are exposed to climate change as well. But there's certain things that trees do which will help protect us against the onset of climate change. Now we are already in that cycle of climate changing, and that will inevitably, things will get worse, but trees are one of our very, very best defences against climate change. But exactly how? Well, the most obvious way, and I'm sure most of you are aware of this, because of climate change, is to do with the global heating up of our planet, and that is to do with carbon emissions. Now, what trees are very good at is absorbing that and turning that into useful oxygen. So the more trees that we have on our planet, the better it is to mitigate the effects of climate change. But there's some other subtler ways as well, and one of them is this. So these leaves have fallen off this tree recently. Now this will then start to deteriorate or break down on the ground, and it will form a humus. And this is really clever part of the tree. That is useful to the tree as well, because it then makes the soil moisture rich. So when rainfall happens, it enables all the ground around here in the woodland to hold more water. Why is that important? Because when we go into a summer, if we have a dry summer, or indeed any dry period of time, it means we have in effect a water reservoir underneath the tree's feet, if you like, their roots. It's already in there because they've produced this little micro environment that will hold more water to protect them. So yeah, that's one of the ways you can do it. So there's more trees, it means you can hold more water. So climate change isn't just about flooding, that's obviously one of the ways to do it. It's also about storms, but it also means that other places will become dry with drought. But if we can hold the trees in and have more of them and more areas like this, it means that we have more places that can hold in moisture, and that acts as a trap for water. Now, the other thing that happens is that trees generally do not like big changes in temperature, swings from really cold to really hot. They're like us. They don't suddenly like to go out from you're sat by a nice warm fire and like suddenly going out into freezing cold conditions. It's like that, isn't it? Or you're suddenly going to somewhere where it's really hot. If you've been somewhere where it's cool, it's not very pleasant. And trees don't like that either. It really mucks up their systems. And they also protect the wind. So they try and protect and control the humidity in the woodland. You may notice this well yourselves. If you go into a woodland, particularly on a hot day, not only is it cooler because the canopy of leaves is protecting you from the direct sunlight, but also the humidity is different. It's cooler. There's more moisture in the air as well, not just in the ground, but generally in the air. And the other thing they can do is they can reduce the amount of the wind's effect. So if you've got wind, and what wind does, it tends to act as like a drying agent, so it removes moisture. If you've got like a flat field, it will dry out quickly on a windy day as opposed to a calm day. But the trees are trying to mitigate against that because they want to hold that moisture in so they can use that water. But that also helps with climate change as well, because it tends to dampen down these swings and roundabouts. The more urban areas with our man-made built environments, they are no good for reducing those swings and ups and downs of extreme weather conditions. Now, during the course of the research of this little video here today on West Country Wanderings, I learnt a new term. You're probably already familiar with this, but it turns out what I've been doing using my camera going around this lovely little woodland here in Gloucestershire is leaf peeping. Yes, it basically means the act of going to a location and photographing it during the autumn. Yes, I know, just to capture the colours and then obviously sharing them on Instagram, Facebook, and indeed here on good old YouTube. But yeah, leaf peeping, that was a new one to me today. But yeah, I just want this video to be upbeat. Please don't feel negative about the climate change. There are things that we can do. I just want you to take that message away from that. But yeah, the woodlands are just so important, aren't they? I've really enjoyed coming back into this woodland again. It's just been a really great privilege to be able to do that just close to where I live. Hopefully you will have a woodland which you can either get to, hopefully by not using a car, by cycling or walking to it, to just absorb that as well, or using public transport, and just to get the benefit of it, because they're just absolutely fantastic and wonderful places, aren't they? And I certainly feel very privileged to have this one just 34 minutes away, walk away from where I live here in Gloucestershire. Now, I mentioned earlier on about the flooding in Valencia, and I would like to dedicate this video today for the people that have been affected by that in Spain. I feel absolutely heartbroken when I saw those images. Well, I think we all were, weren't we? And I'll include some links to any help you'll be able to do with that in terms of donations or any other help in terms of voluntary agencies, that sort of thing. I'll put links to those in the description of today's, and so I'd like to dedicate this video for the people who've been affected in that awful tragedy in Valencia. I'd just like to thank Michael again for a suggestion about returning back here or doing a video. I've returned here many times just for my own sanity and physical health, but yeah, just to coming back here. So that was a great suggestion there, Michael. I was a bit shied away from it for a little while. I thought, what is it I can add to it? And because I'd made 7 videos there, I thought it'd probably getting a little bit stale now, but I thought now a period of time has elapsed since making that one 2 years ago, and also there's a new audience that I've joined my channel, so thank you. I think I only had about 1,000 or so subscribers when I made that one 2 years ago. Now obviously it's nearly 4 times that. So yeah, so you may not have been aware of those videos as well from 2 years ago. So I thought, yeah, also coming back with a fresh pair of eyes. So hope you've enjoyed it today. Go to your local woodland and enjoy it as well to get the benefits of it, because there are so many benefits of it. I certainly appreciated it today. until next time on West Country Wanderings, and I very do much appreciate you for watching today, and I'd love to know your thoughts. Please drop a comment in below, and I like to share with those, I can't read them all out, but I do like to share some of them in my monthly vlog, wherever that may be, over the next couple of weeks. It'll be, it always comes around so quickly. But there'll be another video, probably about something completely different. It won't be Woodlands, it'll probably be about something completely different over the next couple of days, so look out for that one. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye for now.